welcome to week 6. I want to talk to you about symbolism today, and one of your readings is that document, Introduction to Symbolism. So if you want to follow along with me, go to Content and then click on Course Documents and then Introduction to Symbolism. So we know that a symbol, whether in a short story or a poem or in real life, just means the act of allowing one thing to stand in for or represent another. And a lot of us have symbols that we're using in our everyday lives, often without consciously realizing it. So, for example, let's say you've been out of town for a while and you see a particular billboard, or you pass by a restaurant or something that kind of reminds you of home. That billboard or that object or that restaurant that's reminiscent of home has then kind of become a symbol of your hometown. I know when I see a billboard for the Cracker Barrel, I'm just like, oh, East Ridge. And we actually have a Cracker Barrel in East Ridge. There are universal symbols that appeal to people everywhere. And most individuals across the world, for example, would relate to the flag of their home nation. I know I did a study abroad program to Ireland some years ago, back in 2002, I think, and I was there for 3 months. And I remember the first time that I saw the American flag after I'd been over there for a while. I went to the Phoenix Park, and that's where the American ambassador's home is. And I saw the American flag waving in the breeze. And I was kind of almost struck by my own emotion. I just felt this very deep emotion to see it for the first time after not having seen it in so long. And so another good example would be the Statue of Liberty, or as my son used to say when he was little, the Statue of Liberty. I'd be like, no, sweetie, it's Liberty. And he's sort of like that little girl in the commercial for Pinnacle. He would say, that's what I said, Liberty. So I'm like, all righty then. So that's another good example of a universal symbol of freedom in that case. Poets and writers obviously use symbols in their writing to make it more effective, to reach us more effectively. And sometimes we're consciously aware of the use of those symbols being used, but at other times the symbol being used might touch us in a more subconscious sort of way. So we're not actively, consciously aware of its strategic use in that piece, but subconsciously we're aware of it on a deeper level. The subtle connections that the writer's making are coming through to us, and you're going to see that in this week's readings, actually. Particularly in Journey of the Magi, you're really going to see that use of symbolism sort of almost at an unconscious level, and then once it's pointed out to you, you're going to be like, oh wow, now I see it. And so a lot of literary critics contend that Hawthorne, in his novel The Scarlet Letter, first introduced the use of symbolism into the American novel. And as a result, that element has become the salient feature, like the main, most significant feature of a lot of American novels. I don't know how many of you might have read The Scarlet Letter or seen a film version of it. There's one a while back with Demi Moore, and there have been a number of different film versions of it, but it's really a beautiful, beautiful novel. And Hawthorne himself suggested that use of symbols in The Scarlet Letter plays kind of a deeper role. So if you know the story, Hester Prynne, when she's revealed to be an adulteress, she becomes pregnant out of wedlock, and of course in a Puritan society that's not a good thing to be, right? So the townspeople make her, as part of her punishment, wear a scarlet colored letter A on her chest to stand for adulteress. But after she shows the people over a period of time that she's caring, that she's nurturing, she tends to the sick and to the dying unceasingly, the villagers begin to speak of that letter A as meaning able. So the symbol takes on another form, and others interpret it as standing for angel. And so in essence, that symbolic letter A has affected a partial redemption for the character of Hester. So symbols are powerful tools that poets and writers use. It can give a work a lot more richness and color, make the meaning deeper. And in literature, symbolism takes different forms. So it might be a figure of speech where an object or person or situation has another meaning other than its literal, obvious meaning. It could be symbolism through the actions of a character, or the words or the actions or events that have a deeper meaning in the context of the whole story. Metaphors, as we know, are symbols or figures of speech that use symbolism. And so a metaphor compares two things that are not alike, and it shows that they actually do, in fact, share something in common. And so in a metaphor, there's an additional meaning to a word, and that makes it obviously an example of symbolism as well. And I give you some little examples there. Time is money, life is a roller coaster, he's a rock. You can think of all kinds of uses of metaphor there. Allegory is another literary tool that a writer can use to show symbolism. And so a story, a poem, even an entire book can be an allegory where the symbolism is permeating throughout the entire work. And so one example of allegory is found in Shakespeare's As You Like It. All the world's a stage, and all the men and women merely players. They have their exits and their entrances, and one man in his time plays many parts. So that whole phrase is kind of an allegory for the idea that people are some people anyway, putting on a show. They're sort of acting out their parts in their daily lives, and therefore playing many roles over the course of time. We could say that Pilgrim's Progress is just nothing but pure allegory, right? The pilgrim represents every Christian, and the story represents every Christian's journey through life. So a lot of poets use the tool of symbolism to deepen the meaning of their poems. And here's an excerpt from Blake's Sunflower, where he's referring to the human life cycle. And he's using the sunflower to represent humankind and the fact that we have this desire for everlasting life. Ah, sunflower, weary of time, who countest the steps of the sun, seeking after that sweet golden clime where the traveler's journey is done. So like the sunflower, we're always, looking up, and we're always dreaming and hoping and praying that there's something beyond this life. So as you read the text that we're studying together, be aware of words and phrases, images, and the various meanings they might connote, right? Remember, connotative meaning, all the associations that the words carry. An acute awareness of symbolism, it's often subtle, but it's always effective, in American Lit will definitely help deepen your understanding of the works that make our nation great. So, Journey of the Magi, Journey of the Three Wise Men, be looking for symbolism there. In A Station of the Metro, Imagism and Symbolism by Ezra Pound, that really short poem. Think about what the metro is. Think about what the word apparition means. Think about what a bough is. It's a tree limb, right? The Snowman, one of my most favorite all-time works by Wallace Stevens. So think about, again, the seasons, the 4 seasons as a human life's parallel of the human life cycle. So if we're in winter, we're talking about a snowman that symbolizes aging and death. So the person who is that snowman, think about it, is thinking about his own mortality. So be thinking about that as you're reading that poem. And then of modern poetry, where Stevens again uses lots of symbolism to talk about what modern poetry ought to be and what it ought to do. Our week 6 discussion board topics will cause you to kind of think more deeply about Eliot and Pound and then ask some questions and consider some questions about Stevens. And then you'll take an MLA Practice Quiz. So now this quiz is not graded. However, I will be able to see whether or not you took it. So if you want to be counted present this week, you want to take it. And the purpose of this quiz is to help you see where you need to improve with MLA citation before that midterm exam rolls around here pretty soon, next week in fact. So do be sure and take that quiz. We'll have a review for the midterm next week. I'll do a video that is a midterm prep video, so you want to be sure and watch it at the beginning of next week. The midterm's divided into 2 parts. The review sheet is already up for you to be able to peruse it, and you'll need to take both parts of that midterm before 11:59 p.m. on Sunday, the 11th of October. So thanks for your patience, and I will see you in the next video.